Right now, your mind is doing something extraordinary. You're not just seeing words or hearing a voice, you're turning information into meaning, predicting what comes next, comparing it to what you already know, and quietly building a model of the world in your head. That feels completely normal. But it isn't. Because for most of human history, no other species on Earth could do this at anything close to this level. And at some point, something in the human mind shifted. Not our bodies, our minds. And that shift may be the reason humans became the dominant species on the planet. So what happened? What changed inside us? And why did that change alter the entire future of life on Earth? To answer that, we need to go back to a world that changed almost not at all. For hundreds of thousands of years, human life moved painfully slowly. If you were born into one generation and then somehow jumped forward tens of thousands of years, the world would still feel familiar. Stone tools, fire, hunting, small groups moving across landscapes, careful routines built around survival. There were no cities, no writing, no science, no roads, no empires, and no real sense of progress in the way we think of it today. Life was shaped by the same three problems over and over again. Find food, avoid danger, and survive long enough to have children. Early humans were intelligent, very intelligent. They learned to make tools. They learned to control fire. They learned how to track animals, cooperate in groups, and survive harsh climates that would kill most species. But even with all of that, innovation barely moved. A tool could stay almost unchanged for tens of thousands of years. That's hard to imagine today. We live in a world where phones become obsolete in a few years, where new technology appears constantly, where the pace of change can feel overwhelming. But for most of our history, almost nothing changed from one lifetime to the next. That slow world matters because it tells us something important. Human beings were already alive, already clever, already adapting. But something was still missing. Then, at some point, the pace of change suddenly began to accelerate. Between roughly 70,000 and 40,000 years ago, the archaeological record starts to look different. Not gradually, suddenly. We begin seeing cave paintings deep underground, carved figurines, decorative jewelry, symbolic markings, musical instruments, and complex burial practices. We see objects that seem to exist for meaning, not just survival. These were not just practical tools. They were signs. And signs matter, because a sign is never only what it is. It also points to something else. A painted wall may be a wall, but it can also be a message. A necklace is not only an object, it can signal identity, status, belonging, beauty, and memory. A burial is not just the placing of a body in the ground, it can suggest grief, ritual, an afterlife, or a shared idea about death itself. That's the real shift. Humans were no longer only reacting to the world in front of them, they were interpreting it. And once you can interpret the world, you can also begin to share those interpretations with other people. That changes everything. Humans were never the biggest animals on Earth. We were not the fastest, we were not the strongest, and we did not have claws, armor, venom, or great natural defenses. If you looked at a human from the outside, there was nothing especially impressive about the body. So why did we win? The answer begins with coordination, and coordination requires language. Not just basic warning cries like danger or food, something much more powerful. Language that could carry memory, language that could carry plans, language that could carry identity, language that could carry rules, myths, expectations, and shared meanings. Humans could now say things like, "This happened yesterday, we should go there tomorrow. That place belongs to us. This is forbidden. This spirit protects us. That person cannot be trusted. We are part of the same group." That is an enormous leap, because once language becomes more than simple communication, it starts to create a shared inner world. People can coordinate without seeing each other. They can cooperate with people they barely know. They can pass knowledge across generations. They can act as if they are part of one larger mind. And that larger mind becomes stronger than any individual. This is where humanity becomes truly strange. We are not just intelligent animals. We are animals that can believe in things that do not physically exist. Money is just paper, metal, or digital entries. Nations are invisible borders drawn across land. Laws are agreements that only work because people believe in them. Religions are shared systems of meaning. Companies are legal fictions. Human rights are not objects you can touch. And yet, all of these invisible things shape reality more than many physical objects ever could. That is the human superpower. Not intelligence alone, not tool use alone. Shared imagination. Because once enough people believe the same story, that story becomes powerful enough to organize behavior at massive scale. A tribe can be held together by family, but a civilization needs something more. It needs symbols, myths, rules, institutions, and a sense of belonging to something bigger than the individual. And that is exactly what humans learned to build. We did not simply invent stories for entertainment. We built worlds out of them. And once humans could do that, they could cooperate in ways no other species ever could. Once humans could coordinate through language and shared belief, survival itself changed. A single human is vulnerable. A coordinated group is dangerous. A lone hunter can fail, but a group can plan, specialize, and adapt. One person can remember part of the story, another can remember the tools, another can track the seasons, another can teach children what to avoid, another can lead the hunt, and another can preserve the rituals that keep the group together. This is how systems begin, and systems scale. That is why Homo sapiens spread so rapidly across the world, not because we suddenly became biologically superhuman, but because we became socially powerful. We could adapt to deserts, forests, ice ages, mountains, coastlines, and open plains because we were not just evolving as bodies, we were evolving as networks of minds. Every new environment demanded new knowledge, new cooperation, and new meaning. And wherever humans went, the world changed with them. Other species disappeared. Large Ice Age animals vanished in many regions shortly after human arrival. Neanderthals eventually vanished too. For the first time in Earth's history, one species was reshaping the planet through thought, cooperation, and shared belief. That is an astonishing thing to realize. But this power had a shadow side. The same ability that lets humans cooperate also lets them divide. If we can believe a story together, we can also disagree about which story is true. That is where tribalism comes from. That is where conflict grows. That is where humans begin fighting over identities, beliefs, symbols, borders, and ideas that cannot be physically touched. This is one of the darkest and most revealing parts of the human story. The mind that can create civilization can also create war. The imagination that builds trust can also build fear. The stories that unite millions of strangers can also tear them apart. And because these stories feel real to the people inside them, the conflict becomes intense. We do not fight only over land or food. We fight over meaning, over honor, over faith, over belonging, over who gets to define reality. That is the hidden cost of consciousness at this level. The more powerful the human mind becomes, the more powerful its illusions become too. The cognitive revolution did not end. It just kept expanding. Language led to writing, writing led to printing, printing led to mass communication led to the internet, and now the pace of change is faster than ever before. Ideas move instantly, beliefs spread globally, stories scale across billions of people at once, which means the same force that transformed humans tens of thousands of years ago is still shaping the world today. Every government,
Every economy, every company, every law, every online movement, every national identity, all of it rests on shared belief, shared imagination, shared stories. We like to think of the modern world as built on machines, systems, and technology. But underneath all of it is something far older and stranger, a mind that can invent reality. So what made humans the dominant species on Earth? It was not strength, it was not speed, and it was not intelligence alone. It was the ability to create shared meaning inside our minds and then build reality around it. We became the species that could imagine things that did not exist yet, then believe in them, then organize around them, then turn them into the world we live in. In that sense, humans did not just adapt to Earth, we rewrote it. And we're still rewriting it now. Because every new generation inherits not just the planet, but the stories that shape it. And those stories will decide what kind of future we build next.
This is Origins of Us, a journey into the history of humanity and the events that shape the world we live in today. If you want to understand the full story of humanity, not the myths, but the science, then be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.